Marcus was 32 years old, broad-shouldered, and built like someone who had spent years doing hard labor, because he had. He wore a torn shirt that had seen better days, jeans ripped at both knees, and boots that had walked more miles than most people ever drive. His hands were calloused. His face carried the kind of tiredness that doesn't go away after one night of sleep. To the people who passed him on Peachtree Boulevard every morning, Marcus was invisible. Or worse, he was something to be avoided. Mothers pulled their children closer when he walked by. Business executives crossed the street before he could get close. Security guards tracked him with their eyes from behind glass doors. But Marcus didn't walk Peachtree Boulevard to beg. He didn't walk it to cause trouble. He walked it because it was the fastest route from the bus stop to Franklin Construction, where he worked 12-hour shifts pouring concrete and hauling steel for a city that didn't know his name. On this particular Tuesday morning, the sky above Atlanta was thick with clouds that couldn't decide whether to rain or hold. Marcus had his head down, earbuds in, moving fast because he was already 7 minutes behind schedule. He couldn't afford to be late again. His supervisor, Mr. Hobbs, had already given him 2 warnings this month. That's when he saw it. A small red purse, elegant, expensive-looking, lying on the sidewalk beside a concrete planter. It must have slipped from someone's arm without them noticing. He looked left, then right. A few feet ahead, walking briskly toward the gleaming glass entrance of the Meridian Tower, was a woman in a red dress. Blonde hair, heels, phone pressed to her ear, a briefcase swinging at her side. She hadn't noticed. Marcus hesitated for half a second. "Just keep walking," said the voice in his head. "You're late. You touch that purse, you're already arrested in somebody's mind." But then he picked it up anyway. "Hey ma'am, your wallet," he called out. She didn't turn around. He called again, louder this time. Still nothing. The phone call had her completely absorbed. Marcus broke into a jog. In torn clothes, on a busy Atlanta street, running toward a wealthy-looking woman who hadn't asked for his help. He knew exactly how it looked. He didn't care. "Ma'am, excuse me, your wallet." The woman, her name was Victoria Hargrove, senior vice president of Hargrove Capital, finally turned. And the moment she saw Marcus, big, dark-skinned, dressed in rags, running toward her with her purse in his hand, her whole body went rigid. She clutched her briefcase. She stepped back. Her eyes went wide. "Get away from me," she screamed. Within seconds, a security guard burst through the revolving doors. A man in a suit on a nearby bench stood up. 2 women waiting for a ride-share moved back. Phones came out. Eyes locked on Marcus. Marcus stopped running. He held the wallet out in front of him with both hands, slowly, the way you hold something fragile. "I'm not. I just found it. On the ground." "Ma'am, I'm not trying to." "Give that back," Victoria shouted, her voice cracking with fear. The security guard stepped between them. "Sir, put the bag down." "I found it," Marcus said calmly, his voice even, practiced, the voice of a man who had been in this position before. Not because he was guilty, but because of what people saw when they looked at him. "It was on the ground about 30 feet back. I was trying to return it." Silence. Victoria looked at him. Her chest was heaving. Her phone had dropped to her side. "Right there," Marcus said, nodding back down the sidewalk. "Next to the big planter. You walked right past it. Check if it's yours." The security guard looked at the bag, then at the ground Marcus had gestured toward. Victoria, hands trembling, reached out and took the wallet. She opened it. Her ID, her credit cards, a photograph of 2 small children, and $847 in cash, all still inside. The silence that followed was not comfortable. It was the kind of silence that fills a room when everyone suddenly realizes they were wrong about something important. Victoria Hargrove looked up at Marcus. He was already turning to leave. "Wait," she said. He stopped but didn't turn back around. I'm sorry," she whispered. Marcus stood still for a moment. Then he turned slowly, and for the first time, she really looked at him, not at his clothes, not at his size, not at the color of his skin. She looked at his face, at the exhaustion behind his eyes, at the dignity in his jaw. "You don't have to be sorry," he said quietly. "Just, maybe next time, give someone a second to explain themselves before you decide what they are." He put his earbuds back in and walked away. And that should have been the end of the story. But God, or fate, or whatever name you give to the thing that balances the scales, had other plans. 3 weeks later, Marcus was sitting in the waiting room of Atlanta Metro Emergency Services, right hand wrapped in gauze. A steel beam had slipped at the worksite and caught him across the palm. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was deep enough to need stitches, and bad enough that Mr. Hobbs had finally sent him home. The waiting room was packed. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A TV mounted on the wall showed a local news channel, something about a zoning dispute downtown. Marcus closed his eyes, leaned back, and tried to breathe. Marcus. He opened his eyes. Standing in the doorway in a crisp blazer, holding 2 paper cups of coffee, was Victoria Hargrove. He blinked. "I work with the hospital foundation," she said, as if she owed him an explanation. "We fund this clinic." She paused. "I recognized you when I walked in." He said nothing. She held out one of the coffees. "I've thought about you," she said carefully, "almost every day since that morning." Marcus took the coffee. "You don't need to." "No," she cut in gently. "I do. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About that moment. About what I felt. About why I felt it." She sat down in the empty chair beside him, an action that, in the world of Meridian Tower and Hargrove Capital, would have seemed unthinkable to anyone who knew her. "I've been working in finance for 16 years. I thought I was a fair person. A good person. And now?" Marcus asked. She looked down at her coffee cup. "Now I know that being good in your head and being good in your gut are 2 very different things." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "What happened to your hand?" she asked. He told her. He told her about the worksite, about the beam, about the 12-hour shifts, about Mr. Hobbs and the warnings, about being 7 minutes late on the morning he found her wallet. He didn't tell it to impress her or to make her feel worse. He just told it because she asked, and she actually seemed to want to hear. Victoria listened. Then she said something Marcus didn't expect. "I want to offer you a position." He looked at her. "Not charity," she said firmly, reading his expression. "We have a logistics and operations division at Hargrove Capital. We work with construction contractors, infrastructure firms, municipal projects. I need someone who knows what happens at ground level, someone who's actually poured the concrete and carried the steel, not just read about it in a report." She paused. 12-hour days outside in the rain, or 12-hour days in a climate-controlled office helping us make better decisions about the projects we fund. Same hours. 3 times the pay. Marcus stared at her for a long time. "Why?" he finally said. "Because you ran after a stranger with her wallet," Victoria said. "In torn clothes. Knowing exactly how it would look. Knowing you might get in trouble. And you did it anyway." She looked at him steadily. "That kind of person is very hard to find. In my world, especially." Marcus Delroy started at Hargrove Capital the following Monday. It wasn't easy. There were people in that building who looked at him the same way Victoria had on that first morning. There were meetings where his voice was talked over. There were moments when he wondered if he'd made a mistake. But Marcus had spent 32 years building things in the hardest conditions imaginable. A glass-walled office was nothing. Within 18 months, he had restructured the company's entire contractor vetting process, saving the firm over $2 million in project delays and faulty bids. He was promoted twice. He was featured in Atlanta Business Chronicle under the headline, "The Man Who Changed How We Build." He never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the moment on that sidewalk, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Because that moment had taught him something about human nature that no business school could ever teach. And Victoria, she quietly established a new internal policy at Hargrove Capital. Every employee, at every level, was required to spend 1 day per year working alongside the contractors and laborers on the ground. She never publicly explained why. But Marcus knew. La ciudad de Atlanta nunca se detiene. Ni por los amanecers, ni por las tormentas. Y definitivamente no por un hombre llamado Marcus Delroy. Marcus tenía 32 años, hombros ancos y una constitución forjada por años de trabajo duro, porque así era su vida. Usaba una camiseta rasgada que había visto tiempos mejores, jeans rotos en ambas redilas y botas que habían caminado más miles de los que la mayoría conduce en auto. Sus manos estaban closas. Su rostro cargaba el tipo de cansancio que no desaparece con una sola noche de sueño. Para la gente que lo cruzaba cada mañana en el